Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
And good morning. Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. It's April 30th, 2018. I am Cam Rogers, and this is The Cam Rogers Show. Hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. Got you covered for the next hour, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're waking up with me right now, and if you have to go, don't you worry, get the podcast version, www.chatsports.com/camshow. All right, folks, I am doing my full-on grades for the 2018 NFL Draft. I've got my red corrector's pen. Professor Cam is in the house, and I will be grading the exams. And we're going to start things off with the Cleveland Browns, selecting number 1 overall, of course, as well as number 4 overall, B+. So the Baker Mayfield selection is an A for me. I think he is the most polished quarterback in this entire NFL draft class. Now, with that said, I'm really wondering why they went Denzel Ward at number 4, especially with Bradley Chubb still on the board there. Major pressure now on Ward to perform, the cornerback out of Ohio State. I think he'll be a solid player, but I didn't think cornerback was as big of a need as everybody was really trying to make it out to be. I like E.J. Gaines. I like T.J. Carey. Bodie Calhoun at slot corner. I like him a lot as well. So that one was a little questionable for me. Now back to Mayfield here. I think the pieces are in place for him to be a successful quarterback in the National Football League. Carlos Hyde there at running back. Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon at wide receiver. David Njoku, the number 29 overall selection from 2017, should pan out as well at tight end. Mayfield, gritty. He's a competitive player. I think he fits well. I've said this many times, fitting well in the Rust Belt of Ohio. So I like the Mayfield pick. A little questionable with Ward, but we'll see how he pans out. Austin Corbett could be the guy at tackle for Cleveland to replace Sean Coleman, who really wasn't all that good a year ago. And I really like where they're at with the guard and center position on that offensive line with Bitonio and Zeitler and J.C. Treader there at center. I think things are panning out all right there. So for Cleveland, B+ grade for me. A lot of pressure on a team when you're selecting number 1 overall, number 4 overall, and I won't say they botched it by any means, but I don't think they passed to 100% extent. So no A from me. Be sure to give your team a grade in the comments section here on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. I've got my broadcast here on the laptop right in front of me, and I see Marcus chiming in with the first comment of the day. Thanks for tuning in, Marcus. We got Anthony chiming in. What did Anthony say? Wait, you didn't go with Mr. Rogers' neighborhood reference for your Twitter. You get an F. That is fair, Anthony. That is very fair. In fact, I've gotten flack about my Twitter handle, Mr. Rogers99. By the way, Anthony, no relation to the man in the sweater vest. Totally different families and lineages there. So we do appreciate you tuning into the Cam Rogers Show this morning. All right, let's get to the New York Giants. A grade for me. Now, everybody's giving the Giants flack for getting Saquon Barkley at number 2. I will not do that. Yes, there could have been the argument, maybe you get a Quentin Nelson at 2. You can get a running back later in the draft like a Darius Geis, like a Ronald Jones, whatever. Saquon Barkley is going to be cemented as the premier running back for the Giants for many, many years. We have been waiting 6 years for the Giants to produce a 1,000-yard rusher. You got to go all the way back to Ahmad Bradshaw in 2012. All right, so Saquon Barkley is there. Gettleman didn't budge in terms of trading back from that number 2 slot. I didn't think he actually would. There was some buzz that maybe he would have if, the Bills or the Cardinals gave him a pot of gold. Looks like they didn't do that. Obviously, running back is a major need here. Paul Perkins is already proving to everybody out there that he's not the answer, and he just had pec surgery. All right, Wayne Gallman isn't a 3-down back, and Orleans Darkwa is a free agent, probably not going to come back. By the way, right after Saquon Barkley, I thought to myself, all right, the Giants got to go guard. They got to address that offensive line with Justin Pugh moving on to Arizona and Weston Richburg going to the 49ers. Guess what they do? They get Will Hernandez in the second round, which is incredible value. A lot of people thought he could go in the mid-first round, maybe to a Detroit Lions or somebody like that. Also love the Lorenzo Carter selection there at edge rusher. Defensive coordinator James Bettcher loves his aggressive blitz packages. I think the Giants will use Carter very, very well. And of course, JPP is no longer a member of New York. So, but again, I could talk about the Will Hernandez selection till the sun goes down because he's a really solid player, good road grader. He's a bowling ball, kind of barrel-chested, as they say, and I think he'll be a nice little replacement there with Justin Pugh moving on out. So, yeah, the Giants did get Andrew Norwell and all this stuff, but Will Hernandez will pan out to be a really good run blocker there. And it tells me also that Dave Gettleman wants to make a final push with the New York Giants and Eli Manning at quarterback. All right, so there you go. The Giants get an A grade from me. Let's go to the Jets. They get a B+ grade, all right? So first we start things off with the fact that there's no Big Apple Baker happening, and I'm very sad about that because I'd like to take credit for coining that phrase. So Sam Darnold comes to town, and really, this was a bit of a shock for me. I expected Darnold to go number 1 overall to the Cleveland Browns, and then the Browns would have selected Bradley Chubb, but again, that's why I'm not an NFL GM, and I'm just blabbing here at a desk. So I like Darnold a lot. He's going to be a bit of a project. He's a little raw, needs to improve upon his turnover issues, but I really like the Jameis Winston comparison because I think that's kind of who he is. He's an aggressive player. He's very competitive. He's a good leader. And if you can just polish up the turnover issues, I think he will be a quality quarterback. Now, what concerns me about the Jets, and one of the main reasons why I don't have them in the A range, is that they didn't address the offensive line to the degree that I would have liked, especially in terms of the interior of the offensive line. Center, guard, Brian Winters isn't very good. James Carpenter is brutal as well. They got Spencer Long at center coming back from injury, so we'll see how he pans out. So offensive line is a bit of a question mark for me with the Jets. I was a little puzzled here in terms of Mike McGagan's strategy in the later part of the rounds, but in all, B+ grade. I really like what the Jets did in a macro perspective to improve their team. We'll see what Chris Herndon can do at tight end. Tight end is a big-time need for the Jets. So be sure to let me know in comments, who's the most NFL-ready rookie quarterback? Is it Rosen? Is it Darnold? Is it Tanner Lee out of Nebraska? Maybe it's Magoo, Mr. Magoo, Matt Magoo, or whatever it is, who went to the Seattle Seahawks there. So let me know in comments what you guys think. I see Joshua chiming in with Rosen. I'm buying into that a little bit, although I'm still on the Baker train. But for the Jets, like what they did, here's what is going to be a really fun storyline for Gang Green here, is the trio of Teddy Bridgewater, Josh McCown, and now Sam Darnold battling it out in OTAs, training camp, minicamp, all that stuff. Going to be one of the big-time storylines for the Jets. If I had to predict here, I'm thinking it's going to be Josh McCown in week 1, and then eventually if the Jets start losing games, maybe it's Darnold. I don't know where Teddy Bridgewater fits in all of this, but we'll see. All right, let's get to the Kansas City Chiefs. Probably the first so-called bad grade here, C- in terms of what they did in the draft. And one of the big-time needs for them was to address the front seven. And yeah, I mean, they did that. They got Breeland Speaks and Florida State defensive tackle Derek Noddy, but where's the pass rush, right? Didn't see enough of that. And who's going to prevent the Chiefs from dropping Justin Houston into coverage? They did that so often a year ago, and it took away what Justin Houston does best, getting after the quarterback. And because of the lack of reliability on the other side at edge rusher, Houston had to be dropped back into coverage. So, I mean, we'll see what defensive coordinator Bob Sutton can do here with the Chiefs in 2018. He's got to stop doing this 4-2 dime package where he essentially uses a safety as a linebacker because teams are just going to run the rock against the Kansas City Chiefs. And a lot of them did that to KC a year ago because of Sutton's defensive scheme there. The Chiefs also didn't address cornerback until the 6th round. All right, they lost Marcus Peters, you may recall. He's now a member of the LA Rams. And if you're getting a cornerback in the 6th round, not exactly a plug-and-play guy. And don't tell me Kendall Fuller is a CB number 1. He's not. He's a slot corner. He's a good corner, but he's not a guy that you want atop the line, and he's obviously not to the degree of Marcus Peters in terms of playmaking ability. So we'll see what happens there. C- grade for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's summarize my first slate of 4 here. So I've got the Browns with a B+, Giants aced it. Not many A's, by the way. It was pretty tough. Jets with a B+, and the Kansas City Chiefs with a C-. You're watching the Cam Rogers Show presented by the Game Time app. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. chatsports.com/tickets is the way to go. Keith in the comments section thinks Falk could be the most NFL-ready quarterback. Luke Falk. All right, that's an interesting one. We'll see what happens there. Keep hitting me up in the comments section. We'll feature you guys here on the broadcast live. All right, Marcus Williams. Cam, did you hear anything about Dez Bryant turning down a contract from the 49ers? Marcus, I have not heard anything of the sort. Now, there was some buzz that maybe there was something going on with Dez and the Buffalo Bills, Marcus. That obviously is not going to go down from what I've been hearing here. And I'm thinking the 49ers probably won't pursue Dez Bryant, at least initially, Marcus. I don't really know where he fits in that offensive scheme there. Marquise Goodwin is there. Trent Taylor is there. Dante Pettis was recently drafted. Pierre Garçon. So, Marcus, keep an eye out on Dez Bryant. I'll be tracking it for you, of course, here on the program. But I wouldn't buy into any Dez to the 49ers rumors just yet. All right, let's get to the Denver Broncos here. A- grade for me with Denver. So, somewhere Chris Harris is smiling because the Broncos got the best defender at number 5 overall in Bradley Chubb. You want to talk about value in the first 10 picks there, that's some serious value because Chubb could have went number 2, maybe even number 1 to the Cleveland Browns. So already talented defense with Bradley Roby and Chris Harris Jr., like I mentioned, and Darian Stewart, Von Miller. It all just got that much richer with Bradley Chubb. Now, Denver did not go Josh Allen, which tells me John Elway is faithful in Case Keenum to get it done as the starting quarterback there. Paxton Lynch is the direct backup there. So we'll see what happens with the quarterbacks behind Case Keenum. I'm not really sure that Paxton will be guaranteed the backup slots. There could be some competition there. But obviously there's faith here in Case Keenum. Now, I really like the selection of Royce Freeman. He's big, 6 feet, 229, got great frame. He can handle a big-time workload because he had a big-time workload there at Oregon. So if he carries that into Denver, I think they'll be panning out really nicely. Also, Deshaun Hamilton and Courtland Sutton. I wonder if that's some sort of foreshadowing there in terms of the future for Emmanuel Sanders at the wide receiver position. So really like those wide receivers too. Good job by Denver. A- from me. Let's go to the Indianapolis Colts here. They had a lot of draft capital. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to obviously ace the test. B- grade for me. Obviously, A grade in a vacuum drafting Quentin Nelson there. All of a sudden, the Colts' offensive line is going to be really good. I mean, you got Ryan Kelly coming back from injury at center. You plug in Quentin Nelson. Jack Buhort is a good player when he is healthy. Anthony Costanzo at left tackle is a good pass protector too. Now you just got to wait for Andrew Luck to get healthy. So, by the way, I think Quentin Nelson easily beats out Matt Slauson. Just saying. Now, after Nelson, some questionable picks. First of all, including FCS linebacker Darius Leonard. Why are we drafting an FCS linebacker at number 36 overall? That's kind of what I want to know. In the 2017 draft, so some history here, no FCS off-ball linebacker was taken. In 2016, the top FCS off-ball linebacker was picked at number 208. In 2015, the top FCS off-ball linebacker was taken 153rd. So I would like to know Chris Ballard's thinking with going with Darius Leonard there at number 36 overall. Now, outside of Jabal Sheard and John Simon, anybody is expendable on this defense, so maybe Ballard was trying to get a little aggressive, roll the dice, maybe experiment a little bit there. But B- grade from me on the Colts. Ricky in the comments section thought the Colts reached a lot. I think I'm buying into that, Ricky. All right, let's get to the Buffalo Bills. A- grade from yours truly. So we'll start things off with Josh Allen. And I'm not a great, big-time Josh Allen supporter here, but I think he fits best in Buffalo. You can point to the cold weather and the fantastic arm talent that Josh Allen has. And then you got offensive coordinator Brian Daboll returning to the NFL ranks. I think he'll do a good job at coaching up Allen. As of now, I think this is A.J. McCarron's team, but if Josh Allen finds a way to beat him out during the offseason workouts and all that stuff, we'll see what happens. Maybe he could be the starter week 1 against my Baltimore Ravens. Love the selection of Tremaine Edmunds there at number 16 overall. Similar value to maybe a Rashaan Evans going to the Tennessee Titans. Really solid play there. McDermott loves his double A gap pressure looks and zone coverages. I think Edmunds really fits into what Sean McDermott wants to do, along with Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator there. Maybe the Bills could have addressed the pass rushing ability, but I didn't find it really a big deal. It sounds like they're putting a lot of stock in Trent Murphy to kind of be that guy, and that's kind of a roll of the dice there. Really like the selection, by the way, of Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle who could eventually be the successor to Kyle Williams, who is 35 years young. Ricky chiming in. He loves Josh Allen. Scares me, though. I can understand why. You look at the completion percentage in his career, Ricky, it ain't very good. And so he's going to have to improve upon that, but you can't deny his ability to chuck the football down the field in that cold, snowy, rainy, damp, gloomy weather in Orchard Park. Maybe Josh Allen is that guy. And by the way, it's not like he's going to be demanded to throw the football 35, 40 times. The Bills want to run the rock. They got LaShawn McCoy there at the running back position. So that's what they want to do first. And then comes the Josh Allen play action passes down the field to the likes of Kelvin Benjamin and so on. Zay Jones as well and Charles Clay. So A- grade on the Buffalo Bills. I think they did a pretty darn good job. This team just killed it. Chicago Bears, giving the Bears an A. First of all, Roquan Smith, perfect spot, perfect fit, great linebacker, so intelligent, fantastic sideline to sideline. Yeah, he needs to bulk up a little bit, but that's totally fine. He's got really talented players around him on that defense. Danny Trevathan, I think, is a really good player. It's interesting that the Bears went pretty heavy on D with new head coach there, Matt Nagy, who's an offensive mind, but obviously general manager Ryan Pace knows what he's doing with some of these selections that he has made in the past. So Vic Fangio, I think, is going to have a field day with this defense. You got Kyle Fuller, Prince Mukamura, they're back at corner. That's important for continuity's sake. Adrian Amos at safety had an elite year. Pro Football Focus gave him an elite grade last season. There's Leonard Floyd and Aaron Lynch, who they brought in as well. And Fangio's defense is predicated on this cover 2 shell up top and then disguises and cloudiness underneath with players roaming around. And you need intelligent linebackers to make that happen. And Roquan fits that mold. Trevathan obviously fits that as well. Aaron Lynch can get it done. There's a reason why Fangio's best defensive season was back in 2012 with Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. So there you go. Good linebackers spell good stats in a Fangio defense. So there you go. Chicago Bears did a fantastic job. And now you just wait on how the offense is going to pan out, right? With Mitchell Trubisky there at quarterback, Jordan Howard at running back as well, and Allen Robinson and Taylor Gabriel. We'll see what Kevin White can do if he can appear and actually give some return on that investment. Chicago Bears, dark horse team. All right, here's the summary of the last 4 teams, or actually the first 4 teams. The Browns, B+, Giants, A, Jets, B+, Chiefs get a C- from me. Denver, A-, Colts, B-, Buffalo Bills, A-, Chicago Bears knocked it out of the park. I see Kevin in the comments section. How do you feel about the Dallas Cowboys? Stay tuned, Kevin. I'll get to them. You didn't miss them yet. All right, let's get to those 49ers. B- grade from me. So at first, the Mike McGlinchey drafting was kind of a moment. And then the Trent Brown trade happened, and it started to make a little more sense. So you insert Mike McGlinchey there at right tackle. I think he's going to be a fantastic player there. He's 6'8". He's a big fella. He's fantastic in run blocking ability. The only thing is with McGlinchey, I have my fair share of issues with his ability to hold up in pass protection against power rushers. Eventually, Joe Staley will no longer be there at left tackle. He's turning 34 in August. So if McGlinchey eventually becomes that left tackle there, I'm a little wary about that. So he's got to improve his pass protection ability. I think trading up for Dante Pettis was a little bit of a reach, but I think he'll pan out well. He has a really decorated career from his college days at Washington, being a returner there. And DJ Reed out of K-State will provide some good nickel ability as well, some return ability too. Fred Warner, the linebacker out of BYU, he's fast, he's good sideline to sideline, kind of a cheaper Roquan Smith, if you will. And he'll be a good weak side linebacker for San Francisco. And if push comes to shove here, maybe inside linebacker, depending on what happens with Reuben Foster. All right, let's get to the Arizona Cardinals with the new head coach in town and Steve Wilks and general manager there and Steve Keim. I give the Cards a B. So I really like the selection of Josh Rosen there at number 10 overall. He's kind of Aaron Rodgers-esque in terms of his mentality. And I think it can fit, but Rosen also has to kind of back himself up on the field for that mentality to kind of work. Like Aaron Rodgers has that cocky mentality for a reason. He's one of the league's best quarterbacks. Now Rosen has to prove it himself. So the expectation is Rosen will sit out this year, which I probably expect depending on the health of Sam Bradford. Now, Steve Wilks has said that he expects Sam Bradford to play 16-plus games. So, number one, he's expecting a full season. Number two, he expects Sam Bradford to be the quarterback when the playoffs happen for the Arizona Cardinals, which is no given, by the way. But who's going to play cornerback opposite Patrick Peterson? That's the big-time question here, and the Cards did not draft a defensive back until it was Christian Campbell at number 182 overall. So I could have, saw maybe a potentiality of a cornerback a little earlier for Arizona. Obviously, that did not happen. I have a problem with that. Now, they did get center Mason Cole, which I think could be a nice selection there for the Cards. A.Q. Shipley is a little undersized there at center. He's the incumbent there for the Cardinals. I think Cole could eventually replace him on the interior there. So B grade for the Arizona Cardinals, pretty solid draft. Not too many complaints there. All right, let's go to the Miami Dolphins. So with Miami, Minkah Fitzpatrick, this made me kind of think to myself, what exactly is the goal here with Miami and Minkah? They have Tankersley, Xavier Howard there at cornerback. They're young players. They did struggle a year ago. Rashad Jones, McDonald at safety. Bobby McCain at slot corner had a good season. Not really sure where Minkah's going to fit in here. Regardless, I think he's going to be a stud for them. Defensive coordinator Matt Burke is a protege of Jim Schwartz's system, which is usually a front four-man rush, simplified zone coverage concepts in the back end. So Fitzpatrick, along with new linebacker Jerome Baker out of Ohio State, those are unique pieces that I think maybe Burke can utilize in these disguises here in that secondary and linebacking core. Adam Gase, by the way, loves his receiving tight ends. That's why he went out and got Mike Gesicki. I think he fits the mold there for that Miami offense. After the Julius Thomas experiment, let's say, failed. So Miami gets a B grade from me. I am excited to see what Minkah Fitzpatrick can do in the NFL. Maybe he would have fit better for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or somebody like that, but unfortunately, Tampa Bay couldn't get him, so they went with Vita Vea, defensive lineman out of Washington. So I give Tampa Bay here with their draft a B+. I think he did a solid job with the Buccaneers. They traded back. I don't hate it. Vita Vea on that defensive line, along with Bo Allen from Philadelphia and Vinny Curry from Philly as well, and JPP from New York, and Gerald McCoy is there. So I think the defensive line for Tampa Bay could low-key be the strength of this team, at least on the defensive side. So we'll see what happens, but I'm thinking, it could be a vast improvement from a year ago where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished dead last in sacks, guys. So obviously, Dirk Cutter there has his work cut out for him, and he's got some good pieces on that defensive side. The Bucs should have no problem controlling the line of scrimmage, but they could have problems in defending the pass, and that's where I have my fair share of concerns with Tampa Bay here. We'll see what Ryan Smith can do in his second year. Brent Grimes is not getting any younger. He had an okay season. I love the selection of Ronald Jones, though. I think he could become that bell cow back for the Buccaneers. Doug Martin is no more. Jacquizz Rodgers, LOL. He's not going to be a bell cow back. So Ronald Jones, from a fantasy perspective here, could be a running back worth monitoring as you guys gear up for those fantasy football drafts. It's never too early to start thinking about that. Carlton Davis, cornerback out of Auburn, physical player. I liked him a lot going into this draft. Could compete with Vernon Hargreaves, who's been up and down at the corner, especially at slot. Then they got Alex Capa as well, good interior lineman. I think he could potentially replace and beat out J.R. Sweezy, who stinks. That experiment has not worked. All right, so Tampa Bay, B+ from me. If you're just tuning into the Cam Rogers Show, I got you covered with some of the grades so far. B+ for the Browns, A for the Giants, they passed. Jets, B+, Kansas City Chiefs, C-. Then Denver, A-, Colts, B-, Bills, A-, and the Chicago Bears, a solid A. San Francisco, B-. You know, some players that they drafted have injury histories there, so I didn't like that. Arizona, B. Miami, B. A couple of solid drafts for them. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, B+. You guys are watching the Cam Rogers Show on this Monday morning, presented by the Game Time app. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and theater tickets. You can download this app, 5 stars, by the way, chatsports.com/tickets. We thank Game Time for sponsoring the Cam Rogers Show all week. Of course, Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Friday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern Time as well. Let's get to the Washington Redskins. So what was the big-time problem with them last year, guys? Run defense. They were very, very bad at stopping the run, and they addressed that with Daron Payne there, defensive lineman out of Alabama. Like him a lot. And the knock on him is he doesn't rush the passer. Well, who the heck cares? He stops the run. That's what the Redskins need. And yeah, Vita Vea wasn't there, but that's totally okay because I actually think getting Daron Payne and then Tim Settle later in the draft at 163 overall, I think they'll be fine. It's really good value there. So the Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne duo I think will be really fun for the coming years for Washington. Offensive line, though, is a bit of question mark for me, especially at guard. Kwanjo wasn't very good in his limited reps a year ago, so we'll see if the Redskins can kind of improve things there at the interior position. Brandon Sheriff, of course, is at right guard. He's doing just fine, but center and left guard have some question marks. So I would have liked to have seen some more picks there on the offensive line, but it's okay. I think Washington did just a fine job. A- grade from me. I think the defensive front will be a lot better than a year ago. So there's the deal with the Washington Redskins. Let's get to the New Orleans Saints. It's just an average draft, so I give it a C, all right? C isn't necessarily bad, guys, by the way. I think one of the big-time problems with everybody is that, especially recent graduates, the whole grade inflation things, everybody gets an A kind of deal. Yeah, guys, like a C is an average performance. It's not a bad performance, okay? So I will start things off with saying that trading up for Davenport at number 14 overall just didn't make a lot of sense for me. And I think they should have stayed at 27th and gotten a center, maybe a James Daniels or something like that. But I understand to a degree what the Saints were going for here. This was a draft to prepare themselves for one final push for a Super Bowl with Drew Brees at quarterback, okay? It's the same strategy with the New England Patriots when I talk about them later in the show. But for the Saints, they wanted to get an edge rusher opposite of Cam Jordan. Thought maybe Alex Okafor was the guy, but he's also coming back from injury. So they get Davenport there, who is good and can be a disruptor, but he needs polishing. He's raw, and he disappeared at times if you watch some of the tape. Back in his college career, there's plays where he just didn't show up. So for the Saints, again, I understand what they were going for here in the Sean Payton kind of strategy. Traquan Smith by the way, will be some nice depth behind Brandon Coleman Smith, the wide receiver there, so good player. All right, so C grade for me with the Saints, like, just fine. It's all right. This team just did all right as well. C for the Oakland Raiders. So I give them credit for trading back here, but Kolton Miller at number 15 overall, like, I don't really get that. And I really didn't want him going to the New England Patriots, like, in the later part of the first round, let alone going in the middle part of the first round. So really didn't understand that. I understand right tackle is concerning, and Donald Penn is not getting any younger as well, but Tremaine Edmonds was, like, literally right there for the tanking, and Reggie McKenzie decided not to do it. Now, perhaps Kolton Miller is a starter week 1, but he's inconsistent. You watch the tape, he shows up sometimes in pass protection, and sometimes he does not, and he's a swing tackle, really. So it took the Raiders a while to address linebacker in that 6th round with Azim Victor, but defensive coordinator Paul Guenther, I think, will have some fun with P.J. Hall, defensive tackle out at Sam Houston State. You may recall Guenther, the former DC for the Cincinnati Bengals, had the services of Geno Atkins for all those years, and maybe P.J. Hall can be that fresh new Geno there on the inside on that defensive side, but of course they have Justin Ellis as well, who they re-signed. So Paul Guenther will do a good job there on that defensive side, but linebackers, just like, where are the linebackers? And I really am not all that high on Kolton Miller. I would have liked Connor Williams better than Kolton there in that number 15 slot. So C grade for me on the Raiders. I don't know what you guys think about Oakland here, but it was just eh. Let's go to the Houston Texans, and they get the worst grade so far, a D. Now, I will start with the positives. Justin Reed was really good value there. I can't believe he was not taken in the first round. Finally drafted at number 68 overall. He's kind of Malcolm Jenkins-y, very versatile, good safety. I think he'll be worthwhile in the back end there. Could be the guy if Tyrann Mathieu doesn't re-sign with the Houston Texans, by the way. But they left me puzzled everywhere else. The interior of the offensive line is not in good shape. Nick Martin is coming back from injury, the center there, and he's probably the most promising offensive lineman, and he's got an injury concern. Zach Fulton coming over from Kansas City. He's not very good. And the situation at tackle is even worse. So I would have liked to have seen some more offensive linemen from the Houston Texans. They left me puzzled in terms of their draft strategy, and I'm legitimately concerned for Deshaun Watson's health. Like, the pass protection was not good a year ago, and it looks like the Texans did not really address that to a T or to the ability that they could have. And now I worry about Deshaun Watson as he comes back from injury. Could he get hurt again because the PP isn't very good, pass protection. All right, so it'll be interesting to see how UCF tight end Jordan Atkins performs. I know Ryan Griffin is their top dog there at that position, and there is some need. Maybe he can be a depth guy there for the Houston Texans. But D, guys, D for Houston. All right, let's summarize my grades to this point. Got the Browns at B+, Giants at A, Jets with a B+, Chiefs with a C-, and then the Broncos A-, Colts B-, Buffalo Bills A-, Chicago Bears A. 49ers B-, Cardinals B, Dolphins B, Tampa Bay Buccaneers B+. And then the Redskins A-, Saints and Raiders, couple of average drafts, and then the Houston Texans, very close to failing, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's get to the LA Chargers now. So, sneaky good pick here by LA with Derwin James. Love the value. He'll be good. Solid box safety to help in the run game. Trey Boston looks like he's not coming back. And the Chargers, I think, will have the best secondary in the AFC. Yes, that is a bold prediction because they got Casey Hayward already and Trevor Williams, right? And they got King as well at slot corner. And now you insert Derwin James. And by the way, Jason Verrett coming back from injury. Everybody's looking at Jacksonville. But I'm telling you, the Chargers are going to have a good secondary. And by the way, you know what makes a good secondary? A good pass rush. And you got Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa coming around the edge. Now, can the Chargers address things on the interior of that defensive line? Because if they can't stop the run, That means Bosa and Ingram can't be as aggressive in terms of rushing the passer. So they went out and got defensive tackle Justin Jones out of NC State. He could eventually replace the aging Brandon Mebane there, who has been iffy of late. Scott Quisenberry, by the way, will be a nice piece at center to learn behind Mike Pouncey, who the Chargers recently brought in there. So A- grade on LA. Let's go to the Green Bay Packers. And I'm just not sure about Green Bay. I'm giving them a C+. Jair Alexander, good cornerback. Josh Jackson, great cornerback. But Green Bay has Quentin Rawlings and Kevin King and Josh Hawkins and Lindsey Pipkins, and it's like this giant collection of cornerbacks, and I'm wondering, eventually Green Bay is going to have to cut some of these guys. So I thought edge rusher would have made more sense here, but, and I'm sure all you YouTube commenters are ready to type it out, this guy doesn't know football that much, and I can already project what you guys are going to say. But let me just put this out here. I am not going to doubt Mike Pettin. All right, I think he's a good defensive coordinator. He loves his influx of cornerbacks. He likes to use them and roaming around in that secondary and all of that. So I'm not going to doubt the Packers all too much. That's why I'm giving them a C+ here. Oren Burks, by the way, great linebacker. I think maybe he can replace Joe Thomas in dime packages. So for General Manager Brian Gutekunst there, overall successful draft, C+. Again, a C range isn't bad per se. All right, so that's the deal with the Green Bay Packers. All right, Dallas Cowboys fans, what's the deal? C+ grade from me. I think the Leighton Vander Esch selection is a roll of the dice. Now, with that said, I think he could develop into a premier linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. And all of a sudden, low-key, the trio of Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, and Sean Lee, albeit if they can be healthy, could be a top 3 linebacker trio in the NFL if everything pans out right and all the dominoes fall as they may. So maybe Vander Esch could be that Sean Lee insurance policy too. So we'll see what happens there. Now, love the selection of Connor Williams at number 50 overall. I think that's serious value there. You kick La'el Collins back to left guard. You use Connor Williams there at the tackle position. And all of a sudden, I think the offensive line is getting back to what it used to be couple of years ago, right? So I like what Dallas did there, and overall, C+ isn't all that bad. Michael Gallup could be a sneaky play there for fantasy football players, by the way, and also just, a name to monitor for Dallas Cowboys fans out there. I think he'll be a good player there, the wide receiver out of Colorado State. He's a playmaker, and he's going to get his opportunities with Dallas. Ryan Switzer, no more. And Noah Brown, likely no more as well. So the depth chart is kind of coming into fold here at the wide receiver position. Terrence Williams and Allen Hurns, and now maybe Michael Gallup will get his fair share of repetitions. Deontay Thompson, forget about him. Now, we got Ricky chiming in. Why not Ridley or DJ Moore? That is a very good question, Ricky. I think a lot of people out there thought Ridley or DJ should have went to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, with that said, I can make the argument that linebacker was a bigger need for Dallas because, I think Leighton Vander Esch is an athletic freak and he's got a serious ceiling, and I think the Cowboys want to develop him into maybe the successor to Sean Lee if Lee eventually just, doesn't pan out with his injuries. So, there's an argument to be made, Ricky. I know what you're saying there. Ridley, DJ Moore eventually went, and when they went, it was serious value for the likes of the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. Dallas Cowboys, C+ grade for me, ladies and gentlemen, but the NFC East, it's going to be really fun to watch because the Giants did a good job. I think the Cowboys did a solid job in the draft as well. Eagles were okay. They didn't have to do too much anyway, and Washington was pretty good. So it's going to be a fun division to watch, no doubt about it. It always is, though. All right, let's get to the Detroit Lions. B- grade. So they needed a new center because Wesley Johnson is not good. According to Pro Football Focus a year ago, he ranked 35th among centers. Guys, this is centers, not offensive linemen. 32 centers start in the NFL. He was 35th. All right, so he wasn't good. Ragnow comes in, center out of Arkansas, can play a little guard as needed. And you guys know I love my offensive line play, but I would have liked to have seen James Daniels there to Detroit. I was higher on Daniels than Ragnow or Billy Price, who goes to the Bengals, and we'll talk about him. So Detroit's ground game has ranked 26th or worst in yards per attempt each of the last 4 years, including ranking dead last in 2017. So obviously Detroit needs to improve upon things in addressing controlling the line of scrimmage with that offensive line as well as running the football. LeGarrette Blount is in town. Kerryon Johnson was the selection as well in this draft for Detroit. Good pick there. I think he'll be a solid pairing with LeGarrette Blount. Love the Alabama selection there with Deshaun Hand. He's a disruptor. And then tackle out of Oregon, Tyrell Crosby. Some nice value there, 153 overall. So Detroit did a solid job in my eyes, and I'm giving them a B-. All right, so new head coach there in Matt Patricia. Not too bad of a job for him. Let's get to the Cincinnati Bengals, but first let's summarize the list so far. If you're just tuning in to the Cam Rogers Show, here's a look at the Browns grade, B+. Giants did a fantastic job. I'm giving them an A. Jets, B+. Chiefs, C-. Denver Broncos, A-. Colts, a B-. A lot of draft picks, but some questionable picks. Bills, A-. Bears knocked it out of the park, A. 49ers, a B- for me. Cardinals, a B. Miami Dolphins, a B. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a B+. And then the Redskins, solid job. Daron Payne, Tim Settle, A- for me. Saints, a C. Raiders, a C. Houston Texans, a D. Chargers, A-. Packers, B. Cowboys, C+. Detroit Lions, a B+. Let's get to the Cincinnati Bengals. They got a B+ grade from me. But I will say, the Billy Price selection was kind of like a C- for me, but they made up for their picks later in the draft. So really didn't understand Billy Price at number 21 overall because of his injury history. I mean, James Daniels was literally right there for the taking, athletic center that I think would have fit well. Now, some serious value picks for the Bengals here with Sam Hubbard, edge rusher out of Ohio State, and then Malik Jefferson, the tackling machine out of Texas. New defensive coordinator Terrell Austin loves his safeties as well, and the Bengals got a good one in Jesse Bates out of Wake Forest, so I think he'll be good as well. By the way, Auden Tate at 253 overall, sneaky good selection there. Big physical receiver. He's a little slow, can't get a lot of separation, but I like my physical receivers, and he fits that for Cincinnati. You got John Ross screaming down the field. You've got, of course, A.J. Green, an elite receiver, and Tyler Eifert as well. Auden Tate could be a nice little red zone guy there for the Cincinnati Bengals at wide receiver. Maybe even tight end. We'll see. All right, let's get to the Tennessee Titans, and they get an A+ from yours truly. The best grade among all of the teams out there. So we'll start things off with Rashaan Evans. Absolute unbelievable selection on many fronts. We're talking about need. We're talking about value. We're talking about just sheer fit here. New head coach Mike Vrabel in town, of course, a former linebacker in his own right. And after Avery Williamson left for the Jets, there was a need at inside linebacker. Insert Rashaan Evans, one of the safer picks in this first round, well coached out of Alabama. All right, let's go to the New England Patriots. B- grade for New England. All right, so first of all, I really didn't understand the Isaiah Wynn selection here. Shaq Mason, Joe Thuney, they're good at guard. David Andrews at center. The interior isn't the problem, and Isaiah Wynn is not going to play tackle. But then the Trent Brown trade happened, and I wasn't really sure if it made sense for me or it didn't make sense. He's going to play right tackle, it would assume. He's a good run blocker. He's a good player. So now what do you do with Isaiah Wynn? Like, is he a future plan? Well, you get a guy in the first round at number 23 overall, and you're utilizing him as like a future prospect. Just didn't make sense for me. And then Duke Dawson was an interesting selection. He could be the future there at slot cornerback out of Florida there. It also tells me that the whole Patrick Chung and Eric Rowe experiment at slot is all done because they stink. We saw Rowe in the Super Bowl, by the way, and he wasn't very good. By the way, Sony Michel, why? Like, what are you doing, New England? You have a crowded backfield with Jeremy Hill and Mike Gillislee and Rex Burkhead and James White. Now you insert Sony Michel? It's just like, huh? So some questionable moves there for the New England Patriots, but same logic here with the Pats. as with the New Orleans Saints. This was a draft to make a final Super Bowl push in this window that they have with Tom Brady. Kind of like with the Saints, what they did in the draft, making that final push and getting the pieces in place for Drew Brees and that defense to be successful. So in that vein, I understand. So I'm not going to give the Patriots a C- or D or anything like that because I understand what their logic is here with this draft. So B- grade for New England. But with that said, the gap between New England and the next best teams is not as big as we think out there, all right? The Jags are right there. The Steelers are there as well. The Titans are going to be a force. And I think the Texans could be a sneaky play in the AFC hunt. And Baltimore. Watch out for my Ravens. We'll talk about them later. Let's get to the Carolina Panthers. DJ Moore, how about that for some value? Getting him in the first round. And by the way, I think the Panthers are turning into the University of Maryland at the NFL level. They got Torrey Smith there. DJ Moore is there. And the Panthers got Maryland linebacker Jermaine Carter, who I like a lot. So interesting, by the way. So a couple of Terps, or a few Terps in Carolina there. And like I said, good value with DJ Moore. He's got Sammy Watkins type of traits here. Also extended Greg Olsen there at tight end, which is important. Not sure about the Dante Jackson selection, cornerback out of LSU. You watch some of the tape, and some of it is him getting burned pretty bad. And that's not what I want out of a cornerback, especially for Carolina. But the Panthers, historically speaking, have addressed their front seven more so in the draft than corner. They like to predicate their defense off of a good front seven, and then that makes the secondary look better in that regard. So there you go. B+ grade, though, for Carolina. Let's summarize once again my grades for the 2018 NFL Draft. I see Christopher, who just chimed in the comments section. We'll get to your Lions. Browns B+, Giants A, Jets B+, Chiefs C-. Denver Broncos A-, Colts B-, Bills A-. The Bears did a great job. Solid A for me. 49ers B-, Cardinals B, Dolphins B, and the Bucs a B+. Then the Redskins A-, the Saints a C. We got the Oakland Raiders with a C as well, and the Houston Texans with a D. Chargers A-, Packers B, Cowboys with the C+. Here you go, Chris. B+ for the Detroit Lions. We'll see what Ragnow can do there at center. And I think they are putting the pieces in place there for Detroit. Kerryon Johnson will be a nice factor there. Cincinnati, B+, Tennessee, A+, my only A+ here, ladies and gentlemen, so no grade inflation from yours truly. Patriots, B-, Carolina Panthers, a B+. You guys are watching the Cam Rogers Show on Facebook Live here by Chat Sports. We're presented by the Game Time app. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. Chatsports.com/tickets. That's how you download this award-winning app. All right, Ravens fans, let's get into Baltimore. And this is coming from a fellow Ravens fan. D+ grade from yours truly. So, first of all, at number 25 overall, you're getting Hayden Hurst, a tight end out of Carolina, USC to be exact. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, what is happening here? Getting a tight end at number 25 overall when you have needs on the offensive line. Heck, I wouldn't have minded like a receiver at that slot. But a tight end? Guys, tight end is such a shallow position in the NFL these days. It's like Rob Gronkowski and then everybody else. Maybe Jimmy Graham, a 1B. So it's like Hayden Hurst made no sense to me. And then, you know, getting another tight end later in the draft, Mark Andrews out of Oklahoma, it was just like, I threw my arms up in the air. I just didn't understand it. So I did like some of these selections, so the Ravens redeemed themselves. They're not getting an F-. Orlando Brown, tackle out of OU. Hopefully he performs better than what the Combine indicated. I think he'll be worthwhile at right tackle. Alex Lewis can stay there at guard. Bradley Bozeman, center out of Alabama. Hopefully he could be the starter for them going forward. Jordan Lasley out of UCLA. A lot of people think he drops a lot of passes. Some other people think that maybe his hands can translate to the NFL there. Lamar Jackson is the pick that everybody is talking about here with the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm just not ready to look past the Joe Flacco era yet, guys. I don't want to do it, all right? So I really didn't like the Lamar Jackson selection. maybe this is just me being sentimental and all, and I don't want to look ahead to the future when Joe Flacco eventually retires or whatever the case may be. But here is the silver lining with Lamar Jackson. I think it pushes Joe Flacco, all right, in OTAs and training camp to be a better quarterback, because I think he needs that push. Because you look at the past quarterbacks behind Flacco, Woodrum and Tyrod Taylor and Ryan Mallett, these guys are no pressure. Lamar is some serious pressure. All right, so D-plus grade there for the Baltimore Ravens. Let's go to the Atlanta Falcons real quick here. A grade from me. They didn't have to do anything too crazy because their roster is in really fine shape here. And loved the selection of Calvin Ridley. Really good value for where they got him. And we're talking about a wide receiver who's probably the most polished in the entire wide receiver draft class here. So really nice selection. I think maybe he can beat out Mohamed Sanu and become the number 2 guy there. So overall, fantastic draft. Now, I will say, Isaiah Oliver was kind of a luxury selection, cornerback out of Colorado, considering Trufant, Robert Alford is there, Brian Poole in the slot. Cornerback isn't a huge need. But overall, good job by the Atlanta Falcons. A grade from me. All right, the Seattle Seahawks. Oh my gracious. What is happening? And I'm just going to take a sip of water here to kind of prepare myself to talk about Seattle. Oh yeah, lemon flavored. Nice. So for Seattle here, you're getting a running back in the first round. What are you doing? Rashad Penny? Yeah, he's a talented back. Yeah, he can make things happen. But it's like, who's blocking for him? Guys, I don't care how talented you are at running back. I don't care if you're Saquon Barkley or the second coming of LT. If you have an offensive line that can't run block, nothing is going to happen. All right, so Seattle, major concerns about the offensive line and the ability to get some sort of push there up front. I just don't think they can do it. And so I have big-time question marks about what they did there at running back and some other questionable moves there later in the draft. Getting a punter so early, it's like going kicker in like the third to last round in your fantasy football draft. You just don't do that. So Seahawks made some questionable moves there, and don't at me, Seattle Seahawks fans, but F grade. All right, let's go to the Steelers. Terrell Edmunds. What are you doing in the first round getting Terrell Edmunds when Justin Reed and Ronnie Harrison are there? C grade for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe this is my Baltimore Ravens bias coming out of me. Who knows? At least I'm up front with you guys. Now, this is a major reach, getting Terrell Edmunds. He's got the height. He's a playmaker. The tape shows his instincts aren't all that great, though. And that's not a good sign for a safety. When you're a player at that position, you need to be able to be disciplined. And I'm not so sure Edmunds can be that disciplined there. So C grade for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some questionable selections here. But overall, wasn't awful. Just an average grade. Wide receiver James Washington, by the way, he'll be a sneaky good play. I know Pittsburgh likes their speed out of their backup receivers. All right, let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars here. Taven Bryan, rich get richer there on that defensive line. He'll be a nice piece at defensive tackle coming out of Florida there. Good size, athletic, has a really solid hand-to-use combination. Good against the run as well. Perhaps the Jags are preparing for Marcel Darius to move on out. But he'll learn really well from Darius and Malik Jackson as well. So for Jacksonville, they didn't have a lot of needs, and so I didn't think they had to have done anything crazy here. DJ Shark will be a nice piece. How about that wide receiving core, by the way? Keelan Cole, D.D. Westbrook, DJ Shark, Marquise Lee. It's like a bunch of wide receiver number 2s here. So we'll see who can kind of emerge from the pack there. C+ for the Jags. Now, the Minnesota Vikings get a B from me. I love the Mike Hughes pick. Physical corner out of UCF. I think he'll compete with Trey Waynes, by the way, for CB number 2. And we're talking about a secondary that's already in good shape, right? You got Rhodes, Harrison Smith, Andrew Sendejo, good players. The Vikings defense is going to be in fine shape. Now, the question here is, who's going to be the right guard for the Minnesota Vikings? I'm not really sure about that. They better hope that Ryan O'Neal can hold up at right tackle, by the way. He's a little raw, needs some polishing, so we'll see what happens there. But Minnesota overall, B grade from me on them. The LA Rams were a team that didn't have a lot of needs either, so it's hard to give them an A. I give them a C-. Their first pick was a tackle out of TCU in Joseph Noteboom. But now that you look at the contract situations here on the offensive line, it kind of makes sense, right? Because 3 offensive linemen in Havenstein and Jamon Brown and Roger Saffold are in contract years. Now, the Rams did have needs at linebacker and edge rusher, but they didn't really address those until they got John Franklin there. And that was late in the 4th round. They got Okoronkwo as well in that 5th round, who's solid, but he's going to need some polishing. This team is set, though. They're fine. They're going to make a big-time push in the NFC West and perhaps get a 1 or 2 seed there once the playoffs come around. So, not all that bad. C- grade, though, for the LA Rams. And let's get to the Philadelphia Eagles here to wrap things up. C- grade for me. They addressed a need with Goddard there. I think he'll make a major impact alongside Zach Ertz at tight end. I overall like where the Eagles are right now. And I don't have really all that major concerns there. So I think where they're at on that defensive side and that defensive front is really, really solid. Michael Bennett is no more, but that's okay because they got Fletcher Cox and Timmy Jernigan and all these pieces here. And I say Michael Bennett is no more because, well, the legal situation is ongoing. So maybe he could come back at some point, but we'll see. He's certainly going to get at least 6 games, at least in my eyes. So stay tuned on Michael Bennett there. But Josh Sweat at number 130 overall, pretty good selection there as well. So it was, by the way, kind of weird to see him slide. All right, let's summarize the full-on draft recap here for my grades as we wrap up the Cam Rogers show. Browns B+, Giants an A, Jets a B+, and the Kansas City Chiefs a C-. Then the Denver Broncos at A-, Indianapolis Colts B-, Buffalo Bills A-, Chicago Bears did a great job. They get an A from yours truly. 49ers B-, Arizona Cardinals B, Miami Dolphins B, Tampa Bay Buccaneers get a B+. Washington Redskins get an A-, Saints get a C, but it's really not all that bad. They're in fine position to make a run at the NFL playoffs this year. Oakland Raiders get a C as well, and the Houston Texans get a D. LA Chargers get an A. We got the Green Bay Packers with a B. Dallas Cowboys with a C+, Detroit Lions with a B+. And then the Bengals B+, Tennessee Titans with an A+ there. They did a fantastic job going ahead and getting Rashaan Evans. I can't say it enough. He is going to be a premier linebacker for them and really fills a need there. And by the way, I want to correct myself with what I said about the Titans earlier. I said Josh Sweat was going to Tennessee. Harold Landry, just correcting myself there. Great value, by the way, with Harold Landry. All right, Patriots B-, Panthers B+, Baltimore Ravens, my gracious, what did you do to yourselves? D+, Falcons A, Seattle, boo, F, Steelers C, average, Jags, not a lot of needs, C+, Minnesota Vikings got a B from me. Really, really like Mike Hughes, Vikings fan, so skull baby skull. Los Angeles Rams would have liked to have seen more addressing at the linebacker position and edge rusher, C-, that's okay. Philadelphia Eagles, C- there, good value with Josh Sweat coming around the edge, and Dallas Goedert I think will be a nice piece there. Could be sneaky good fantasy value as well. So there you go, the final slate of my grades for the 2018 NFL Draft. It's the Cam Rogers Show presented by the Game Time app. Once again, get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. Chatsports.com/tickets. That's how you download. And be sure to hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. Let me know what you think of the show. Be sure to ask me any questions in the comments section as well. I'd be sure to answer all of them once the show concludes. But I'll see you guys back here on Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Take care, everybody.